Now we're getting more spin out of this than yours.
That thing pulled back.
That thing sucked back on the ground. How about that, right?
That was nice.
All right, today's the big day, SM9 Wedge fitting. Today we are at Glen Arbor, this beautiful short game facility, and you're gonna see a familiar face in a second. We've got Kevin Sprecher, who's gonna be fitting us today. Kevin was kind enough to come up from Sleepy Hollow and join us up here. Guys, if you don't already know, Kevin is the fitter there at that Titleist Regional Fitting Center in Sleepy Hollow. We'll link to everything so you can get in touch with him if you want to get fit by Kevin in the video description. And Kevin fit us for the SM8s now. Can you believe it's 2 years ago?
I can't believe it's 2 years. But I love that we're back with Kevin because he fit us for those. He knows what we're in, so hopefully this won't be that difficult.
Right, so what we're gonna learn today though is what is the difference, the SM8 to the SM9, and we're gonna go back through that fitting process. What's changed in our game? What areas where we might want to make some changes? We're also gonna dive into some of the different customization options. Now remember, if you watched our unboxing, Bob Vokey called the SM9s these ultimate in optionality because there are so many options when it comes to bounce, grinds, lofts. Bob really designed it so that it would fit every golfer, but because there's so many options, I think the best bet is to put yourselves in the hands of a fitter who knows what they're doing. So Kevin's gonna walk us through all of that, and stay tuned because of course, like we did with the SM8s, we've got a massive giveaway.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this one.
One of you is gonna win a full custom set of the new Vokey SM9 wedges. You're gonna have to hang on later in the video. We'll tell you how to enter because we've got a fun one. You guys are gonna have to get a little creative if you want to win this.
That's right.
Right? But let's not keep Kevin waiting. We're gonna go join him over in the short game area and start getting fit. You wanna go first?
Sure.
Kevin, it's great to see you again.
Hey guys, how are you?
And I see you've got a massive bag of tricks here.
Yeah, this is
Just massive.
Everything that Vokey offers and then a few extras.
I know we're gonna dive into the specifics in a minute, but just high up overview, what are some of the things we should see as a difference in the SM9?
The main difference was they lengthened the hosel. Actually, I was just out in California a few months ago and we were talking with Bob Vokey and Aaron Dill. And they wanted to help reduce the launch, but maintain spin. So they lengthened the hosel a little bit, which moves the center of gravity a little bit in front of the face. So it reduced the launch, but increased the spin, which is what a lot of players want. They've improved the grooves a little bit, a little more durability, and again, to help put a little more grip on the ball, so they increase some friction. They come in 3 colors, the traditional chrome, the brushed steel, and then the black. Then they have the raw, which is basically, they take all the coating or plating off. So these will rust over time, which there's no performance benefit, it's just kind of a visual thing, which is what I like.
All right, so now because you fit us for the SM8s and you do tons of these fittings, I'm sure you have some people who come to you for the first time and other times like us, it's a repeat. Where do we start?
Even though I've seen you guys, and we're gonna start at the very beginning, which is are you happy with your gapping? And if not, where is the gap? And then we'll kind of go from there and talk about lofts, and then we'll figure out the bounce and the grind and see how the clubs interact with the turf. Because everyone changes a little bit as their games improve or don't improve.
Right. Right.
So the wedges do feel a little bit different, but if you're happy with your gapping, then we won't deal too much with the lofts, and we'll just kind of play around more with how the club interacts with the turf with the bounce and the grind.
I'm going to start it up, but I feel bad. I hate stepping up to a freshly cleaned ground here, and you know I'm going to tear this thing up, right? All right.
I've already warned the superintendent here. We need some extra sand.
Okay, here we go. We're good.
Speaking of custom stamping, that's why Mike had call 811 stamped on his wedge, because we always call before we dig. Right. There it is.
Yep. You mentioned gapping.
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned to you earlier, the T-Series irons we were fitting to last summer, it came with the 48 degree, which I've taken out of the bag and put in this 50 degree.
Right.
So I don't know if my 43 from pitch to my 50 is too big of a gap.
Well, it's 7 degrees. Typically we want 4 to 6 degrees, but tell me more about the distance. How far do you carry your pitching wedge?
This will be like a 145 club, and this is like a
so probably 140.
120.
Right?
I love it.
Yeah. Everyone adds 5.
We always overestimate.
This is probably like 115 or 120.
Okay, so are you okay with having that big of a gap?
No.
Or is it hard? No.
If I stand over a 130 shot, I'm like, what do I do?
Okay.
Do I take a little off? Then I chunk it. I'm all over the place.
Right. So
that's my biggest concern. It's right here.
Yeah. If that's your biggest concern, that's where we would focus on.
Okay.
One option would be to weaken the pitching wedge, so it's easier to hit shorter. Then you got a gap between your 9. Another option is to go to a 48 degree wedge here, which would give you a little bit more distance that you're looking for and close the gap.
But then does it make this gap bigger?
then we'll change the loft here.
Okay.
So when you're
maybe
dealing with
54.
this,
Got
when
it.
you're dealing with some of the modern irons that have strong pitching wedges now, there's going to be a gap somewhere. Do you want the gap between your pitch and your 50 degree because you're comfortable hitting the gap wedge 3/4? Do you want it to be between your 50 degree and your 56, or make it a 48 and your 56 because you're comfortable hitting the 48 shorter?
I just don't know.
So,
you know,
so
yeah.
Then the other side of it is then we can just strengthen all the lofts. We can go 48, 54, 58, bring the lofts down a little bit.
If he takes that 60 away from me, I might die.
That is his
my
money
baby.
club.
Well,
Yeah.
but it's easy to, like a 58 to a 60 is just a slight
it's not-
face
it's probably not.
change, and that's where the grind comes into play.
Sure.
For my own game, that's what I do.
Okay.
I have a 44 degree pitching wedge, and then I go 47 degree gap wedge because it goes the yardage that I want, and then I go 54, 58. So because I get the yardages that I'm really good with that gap, I can hit it 125, I can hit it 100.
Okay.
So it's which wedge do you want to be able to hit that gapping with? For most people, it's probably going to be somewhere in the 50, the 48 to 50 range to the 54.
Okay. So we should hit some and see what the numbers say?
Let's hit some.
Okay.
So one of the things we want to be careful with when doing a wedge fitting is moisture, because moisture reduces spin. So it's a little bit wet this morning, so the balls will be a little bit wet, and we'll try to keep the face of the wedge as dry as we can.
Okay.
Here, Fred, digging this up.
I'm nervous. I want him to tell me it's okay.
It's okay.
Permission.
It's not Sleepy Hollow. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Now that you've had permission, you don't have to thin it.
Let's dig.
Go ahead and hit it the way you normally hit it.
That's how he hits it.
There you go.
This guy needs his permission for his divots now.
I do. I feel bad.
There we go.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
That's a normal 50
So
right
that's
there.
a normal 50. So that spun 5,800 spin, probably a little bit of water on there on the ball. So another club, and they carried 124. You said you carry your pitching wedge 145.
It's in the 40s, yep.
So let's go to the 48. Ideally, you'd want this to go 130-ish. Now we're getting more spin out of this than yours.
That thing pulled back.
That thing sucked back on the ground. How about that, right?
That was nice.
Right. So we're seeing more spin out of this wedge than yours, out of your 50.
Yep.
So it's definitely performing.
9,200 in spin.
Yeah. You want to hit the wedge between groove 2 and groove 5. That gives you maximum spin because there's vertical gear effect. So when the ball hits low on the face does this, tilts forward. That adds spin to it.
Got it.
If you hit it too high on the face, then you lose spin. And that's where one of the things you start to see with grooves, when you start to see balls kind of shoot straight up and floating, your face is probably worn out. The important thing with the fitting is not so much the number on the club, it's the yardage that you hit them, that you want. And this is a full swing club. So you may go 43, 46, because one, the Vokey is going to spin more than the T300 48 degree. So you may lose a little bit of distance there, but you're going to gain performance. There you hit it a little heavy, but it still went 122. So we still got, even though you hit it heavy, we got some spin out of it. It was a spin with 7,500.
Yep.
So you didn't lose that much distance, even though you hit it a little heavy. So we definitely need the 46
For the distance.
for the distance. Now, as you're playing, you may find it's going too far. Well, it's easy to add loft. But you know, Kev, I'm hitting it just a little bit too far. I wanted more of a gap between that and my pitch. Well, then we bend it a little bit. We go to 47. I'd much rather add loft to a wedge than take loft off, especially with you.
Yeah.
Because adding loft adds bounce. Plus, it makes it look a little bit different. When you take loft off, it makes it look a little bit more offset. I think the 46 for you is the way to go.
Okay.
And then we'll gap the next two off of that.
Sure.
So I think your gap's going to be between this and your next one.
Okay.
And you have a 56 now, so we're definitely not going 56.
Yeah, it's too far, right?
Too far. So we're going to go 54.
Okay.
Right? Because again, there's going to be a gap somewhere.
Yeah.
Unless you take something else out of your bag and go 5 wedges, which is an option.
I would love that.
I think you need to have versatility. There are some courses you want to have 5 wedges, or some players need to have that, and they're okay with taking something out of the top end. Or some players, look, they don't have the distance, they need the longer clubs, so we go less wedges.
I think let's go driver, 3-wood hybrid, and 6-iron through wedges.
6 iron. That was good. So 107, 9,000 spin.
I'm loving those shots.
Good launch angle, 29-degree launch angle, which is good. We're looking between 25 and 35 for launch. But just to compare, let's go 54 and let's try less bounce
Okay.
and see what happens to you. Okay, guys, you may back up. This could explode the ground, so just be careful there. That's only 2 degrees difference in bounce, but the grind's a little bit different. So we went from 12D
to 10S.
10S. You can see the difference in the grinding in the back.
Yep.
So some of that's for versatility. If you want to play around with the face a little bit, it reduces some of the bounce. This is for a player who typically keeps it square. That the S is for stricker. Stricker tends to keep his club face square. You just removed a little bit of the sole in the back so it doesn't catch the grass in the back.
That's really what they put the S after?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, did you hear the sound? Kind of a wet kind of. Didn't like it. Dug into the ground. So if you had more bounce, you wouldn't have hit it as heavy. You would have gotten more yardage. You lost a lot. Carried 76.
Yeah.
Where if you had more bounce, it would have carried a little farther. And so that's a perfect example. Just confirms that the 12 was good.
Just real quick question while we're on the bounce.
Yeah.
How much of the bounce decision is player versus where the player plays? Because one thing we learned really quick when we went to Pinehurst, our wedges felt out of place.
Out of place.
Because we're used to this type of turf.
So it's a combination. It's how the player uses the wedge, and then it's where you play most of your golf. Up here in the Northeast, we tend to be lush, softer soil, so we tend to go a little bit more bounce. The way players interact with the turf is kind of related to their release. Some players have different releases, and they'll feel the grind a little bit different. And that was the genius behind what Vokey did, was to create all these different options for different players, because not everyone releases it or feels it the same way.
Mikey Craters over here, look at this thing.
Right, so you feel that? So that was even a little heavy too, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Right, but it carried 100. So you're a perfect model for us. So with the 10 you hit it heavy, it went 76. With the 14 you hit it heavy, it went 100. There's the effect of the bounce right there. The club didn't dig too deeply into the turf, it skipped into the ball a little bit, so we got some of the yardage. Is it as good as the 12, which allowed you to go 110? No, but it was better than the 10. If I gave you a 56-8, that thing would go nowhere when you hit it heavy, because it would just, the club would just continue downward into the soil.
Again, I just want to interject my own experience here and see how much of a change is happening here within the same loft, just based on that bounce. And it really kind of showed you, because I'll be honest with you, a couple of years ago, before fittings and stuff like that, I would pick my wedges solely on loft, not knowing anything to do with bounce or grind. And now you're seeing it firsthand in the turf interaction and how far the ball is going, the difference when you've got that bounce dialed in. And that's what we've learned from Kevin. You guys know Mike likes to take his divots. How many swings do you think it took to get there? Drop in the comments. Let's hear your guesses.
In theory, we think, Mike, big divots, 14 is the way to go, but it didn't let the club release properly.
Yeah.
Wow. Which is another feature with the SM9s, is they've moved the CG a little bit more towards the heel to make it a little bit easier to release too.
Making the game a little easier for us.
Yeah.
Love it.
So that confirms what we did 2 years ago. We just took a little bit of loft off to get the gapping correctly.
Got it.
You love your 60. I know you love your 60. It's okay to go 6 degrees of loft between your wedges, especially if your 60 goes the yardage that you're looking for. Because this was to fill a gap on the other side of the wedges that you were trying to get at. If you tell me you use your 60 around the greens and you're really comfortable with that, let's stay with it.
Okay, yeah,
because they recommend, Vokey, he always talks about 4 to 6 degrees of loft between your wedges. You're in that range. I would normally have you hit half shots with your 54, but you don't do that.
I don't, no.
So I didn't even go there.
Okay.
We're gonna do that with this wedge. We're gonna go full, and then we're gonna go less than full, because this is the wedge you use for everything. It's your most versatile club. And that's where the grind really becomes important. It's gotta perform on full swings, half swings, 3/4 swings, and everything in between. There you go. How's that feel on the turf?
Feels good. You don't want to dig too much on these half shots, right? So I feel like I'm doing a pretty decent job connecting with it.
No one's breaking an ankle there.
Yeah, right.
So we're okay. That's a good looking divot. It's got good depth, good width.
That's pretty.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
We had to talk about it.
We had to
talk about it.
There's a difference. So these were the good divots. We didn't see any dirt, and all of a sudden we talked about it and jinxed them.
Jinxed me.
We'll bring in the dump truck later. So the K grinds, it's more of a cambered sole, so it's rounded. The way it goes through the turf, it's got a lot of bounce, and it's nice and wide, so it's a little more forgiving. It's almost, you can see the width is about similar to the D, but because of the grind, you can see the difference in the grind back here.
Yep.
How this kind of slopes out. So let's just see how that works for you on
try the
these little
okay.
shots.
Okay is what you have, Frank, in your bag, right?
Yep.
Yep.
It's a little heavy, but on the green.
A great shot. I'll take it. I'm happy with it.
Yeah, so the spin was actually 6,400, carried 38. We didn't hit it the way we wanted to, but we're on the green.
So we're thinking maybe K here?
Well, it's one shot.
I like one shot, know the answers.
One shot's not a trend. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm liking it.
Good launch.
Looking on 2 shots now.
Come on.
You launched it higher,
Yeah.
and you spun it less. So that's just something. If you're going to launch it high, you want to reduce the spin a little bit, so you use land angle to stop it.
Right.
If you're going to hit it low, you want to increase the spin. So this is helping you. So far, 2 for 2 on a shot that you
Don't like it.
openly admitted don't like, and we got it on film too. So
Yeah.
we know you don't like
Get
it.
a little bit of confidence. It's going up.
Right.
You thinking we go K grind, huh?
I think we go K.
All right, Mike, one thing with you always going first in these fittings just gets me so psyched up.
Right?
It gets me so psyched. I see the gains you get so quickly, and I'm excited. So Kevin, here's what we're working with now. The 48 is my full swing club, like we talked about last time.
Yep.
It just gaps me well with the 43 that I've got in the T-Series irons.
So what's your carry with the 48?
So this is about my 110, 115-ish club.
Okay.
I'll pull the pitching wedge for 125. Then I was struggling with was I had a 54 and I couldn't get it to 100 yards. And I had that shot, I was facing it often. So I just felt like I was had to take off the 48, whatever.
Yeah.
I put the 52 in because of the fact that it's just a stock 100 shot, and I felt more comfortable with it. And then the 60 and the K, like Mike had, we did this mainly for greenside bunkers. If I needed somewhere where I need to chip with a lot of loft, get over something, I'd put that in. It's very, very rare I take a full swing with this, because it's like full swing 70 yards, something like that. I feel more comfortable doing a 3/4 swing with the 52 than I do trying to just throw that 60 way up in the air. It's rare I take a full swing with this club.
Okay. All right. Well, let's take a look. I mean, one of the things, everyone thinks you got to throw a 60 way up in the air,
Right.
but and we saw it at the Masters. Actually, you're watching these players hitting these
Oh,
really low wedge shots into the greens.
Yeah.
And amateurs love seeing the ball go really high and whatever. Pros want to see it come down low, and that's one of the differences I see between good wedge players and not so good wedge players. Is good wedge players can change the trajectory, but they typically go low. Everybody else, high is sexy.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to do, and it's harder to control. When you said you know throw the 60 up, you don't like to do that. Well, let's not do that. Let's learn how to hit a 60-yard wedge low.
That's why they're wearing the green jackets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or at least playing for one.
That's right.
Let's start out with your 48,
Okay.
just to see and make sure it's going the distance that we want it to.
Gotcha.
120 carry. That's about what you would expect.
That's about it.
Yeah.
That's about as far as I'm getting out of this club, unless I bladed it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's going the right distance for how you're using it.
Yeah.
So let's just compare the new one.
Dude, how do you take no divots? Teach me.
Yeah, 118, 8700.
That's my usual shot with this club.
Yeah. So there's no need to change here. So we're good there. So I would just stick,
comfortable with that.
Stick with the same. So let's go to your next
If it
wedge.
ain't broke, don't fix it.
The other thing I like that we did was in your gap wedge, we matched up the shaft in your irons.
Right, because it was a full swing
we
club.
The full swing. So with the other wedges, we use a wedge flex, which is a great all-around shaft. In some circumstances, we will change the flex or the weight to match the irons, but a lot of times just the stock shaft is really very good. So let's go to your 52.
Yeah, so this is a full swing, usually around 100-yard club for me. And like I said, it's kind of become my Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
That's my stock full swing 52 right there. 103.
103. Perfect.
That's it.
Yeah, perfect.
Same deal. Yep.
104. Good spin.
What did we get? 7,700?
Spin. Yeah.
Yeah, that's, like I said, that's a very comfortable club for me. I like the way it feels.
This is one of those easy fittings. I'm like, all right, well, just do it again.
Right.
I mean, if it feels good, we're getting the yardages, and you don't really change much. And there's only two options with this, which is the bounce. There's no grind option with the 52.
Well, one thing I'll say is the reason why I'm moving away from it a little bit in the chipping too, is I find if I don't catch it just right, the heel will catch or something like that. And that's why I found that moving to like the 9-iron, the 7-iron, whatever the trajectory is, it's a little bit more forgiving. I don't know if that means like I build any more forgiveness in with the bounce, but if I'm moving away from using it for a chip anyway.
Yeah, I mean, here's an 8, but hit a half shot with that for me.
Half shot.
There you go.
Nice looking shot there.
89.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's this club. I'll just take a little off. I'll do whatever I need with it.
So let's try this. This is a 52.08.
Okay.
A little less bounce. Same grind.
And now, which shot would you like me to hit with this?
Same.
Just that little 80.
A little one, yeah. 81. Because there's no difference here, right?
Yeah. It's nice and skimming across and just
it doesn't drag a little bit.
Right.
So just try it here. Let's just chip a little one here to the green here.
Okay. Yeah, it was real clean.
Does that feel a little better?
Yeah, real clean.
Yeah, so that was really good. So let's take your 52 and play that same shot.
Okay.
They're pretty similar. Did it feel any different?
Very similar. This one, if anything, it felt like it checked up a little bit more on the turf. It felt like a little slower going through the turf. That felt faster through the turf.
And that's the bounce. So on the shots that he was complaining about, which was he was feeling the club kind of get stuck, we decided let's just go less bounce and have him play the same shot, and it feels a little bit better. The way he termed it was actually pretty good, is it feels faster through the turf, where with the more bounce, it was dragging a little bit, so it felt kind of slowish.
Yeah.
Nice shot there.
That feels so clean with the turf.
Yeah.
And as we can tell by the divots, how many shots has Frank hit here?
Yeah, I know.
Right? Here's Mike.
There's me.
There's Frank. Frank's more of a sweeper. He comes in a little bit more shallow, so the bounce was actually getting in the way for him. It was dragging.
Yeah.
Create a little bit of feel. And sometimes a player will react to that by trying to get rid of it, either by leaning it more to reduce the bounce or by pulling up, trying not to create the drag. So I think the 52 might be a better option. Just going off the premise of what we were doing before, we went less bounce, and we know you are a little thinner divot taker. Let's try this new 60 low bounce K.
Okay.
It's gonna get there. Yep.
That felt very forgiving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that was not a perfectly clean shot. It carried the distance I wanted.
Did it feel, you described
Felt
it
skimmy again, like more skimming.
A little more speed through there.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Good.
Whereas I feel like that would have grabbed a little bit more, shaved more speed, and it might not have carried that bunker.
Right. We're gonna have to get Vokey to rename these as Mike said, the LBK.
The LBK.
The low bounce K.
Oh yeah, that feels great.
Okay. So
Look it up.
The LBK.
The LBK is going in the bag?
We might have an LBK.
we're getting the performance. The shots are working out.
Yeah.
And he's thrilled with it. Let's go see it in the bunker.
Okay. Oh, that felt good.
Oh yeah, good shot.
That's close.
That felt good.
Yeah. So you still get the feel that you want out of the bunker. You think low bounce it might dig more,
Right.
but it's got a really wide sole.
Yeah.
So it helps offset that. And actually when you open it up, you actually increase a little bit of the bounce.
Yeah, dude, smooth.
Oh, those feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only time I'd ever not open the face in a bunker like this would be if I had a fried egg.
Sure.
Then I'll keep it a little bit low if I got to use that blade, but that's it.
But that's going to be the same regardless. If you had a lie like that, that's going to be the same regardless of the wedge.
Yeah.
You just keep the face square, blast it out. Right. That came out perfectly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this feels very good.
Perfect.
Incredible.
So again, I get the performance that I'm looking for. He gets the performance and feel that he wants.
Mm-hmm.
So we improved.
And what I like too is that's why it's a good idea to check in with these fittings, because I came into it thinking these are fit perfect,
Yeah.
but we still are able to tweak a little bit.
And they were fit perfectly 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You changed in the play.
Change the way I play and things like that.
Right.
Taking advantage of some of the new technology like this new grind.
The new grind.
This wasn't even available when we did that last.
Nope, wasn't available.
All right, so far another incredible fitting, but I know what everybody's been waiting for. It's for how are you going to win this giveaway?
Of course.
Right? And one thing that we haven't talked about yet and dove into is the customization.
Right.
Okay,
so many options, so many things you could do.
So many things you can do. So we're gonna put you guys to the test. Here's what you're gonna do to win this giveaway. You're gonna go to the Vokey website. We're gonna link to that in the video description. And there's gonna be an option there where you can build your wedge. So I don't care what bounce and grind you select. Go ahead and select whatever you think is best fit for yourself. What I wanna see is how creative you can get with the customization. And when you're in there, you're gonna see there's a lot of options like Kevin was talking about. Colors, stamping, things like that. I want you to design your perfect wedge, take a screenshot of it, and share it on social media. You can share it on Twitter or Instagram. Use the hashtag #PickMySM9 and make sure you tag at Golficity. What we're gonna do is you and I will each pick our favorite out of the group.
Love it.
Then we're gonna take those two and we're gonna put them to a vote for you guys. Whoever wins that vote wins the custom set.
That's so cool.
All right, and when we announce our winner, what we'll also do is we'll end up unveiling what we've chosen.
Right.
Because now we know we've got our bounce, grind, loft combinations, but
now it's time to customize.
That's where it gets really fun. Oh, and by the way, guys, if you're interested in finding out more about how we were fit for the other clubs we talked about here in the video, the T-Series irons, make sure you check out this video right here. We go through the entire fitting process for those irons. It was very interesting. You won't want to miss it. Check it out right here.